Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So today's video we are back again with another episode of MCOC character breakdowns, and we are going to be discussing everybody's most hated slash favorite childhood bully type, and actually you will be pleased to know, in retrospect, a complete failure of a champion, Agent Venom. Now, Agent Venom hasn't always been considered to be a bad champion. Actually, when he was released, he was considered to be quite up there with the better champions due to his convenient ability to reduce their weight up, ability accuracy, and also ability to shrug off debuffs. That did seem to be quite powerful. Unfortunately, due to a natural progression of the game and inevitable power creep levels of increase of performance of many champions, he has been quite simply left in the dust and currently definitely does not symbolize any meaningful impact on today's metagame and endgame situation in as a whole, outside of maybe minor inconveniences and annoyances in low tier alliance war defense and as an opponent with some tricky node combinations. So let's jump on to the next scene where we're back up to our empty wall, and now we're going to start populating it. So we're going to start first and foremost with the basic information. So the character name is Agent Venom. He's a skill class champion, even though he gains his powers via symbiote. But fair enough, Kabam chose to make him a skill class, so he is size M character, and his main hero tags is hero. He's also Guardian of the Galaxy and a symbiote. So that is quite interesting, and that is also somewhat relevant, which I'm gonna maybe elaborate a bit more further in the video. But the main point is that there are multiple kind of like daily and or 3-day events, and occasionally also monthly side event quests, which are dedicated either to Guardian of the Galaxy or symbiote champions. So quite frequently he's actually kind of like a viable and usable option to farm points in some sort of side events, but that is like kind of very minute use, and not to mention that there are obviously other champions who would fit the same criteria of symbiote or Guardians of the Galaxy champion. Now moving on, let's discuss his damage output. His overall damage output was considered to be quite good initially once he came out. He was actually a champion that some people used initially for Labyrinth of Legends because he did not have any inherent buffs active on him, and he didn't really spam many debuffs on opponent. And back in the day when dull node was a thing in Labyrinth of Legends, he was actually semi good option because then it basically was Starlord or bust, and at that kind of like dire situation, even champions like Rocket Raccoon and Agent Venom to a degree kind of like shined just because they didn't gain buffs, so they didn't get affected by the dull node, and his damage, even though is not groundbreaking, he's still better than the average at the time when he came out and when Labyrinth was available. So that is a small interesting piece of trivia there. But yeah, so overall by today's standards his damage is definitely considered to be mediocre or even slightly below mediocre levels. His delivery methods of damage is quite basic. There is no ramp up. He gains a slight attack boost if he is awakened at the start of the fight or when he falls below 50% of damage, and he basically delivers his damage with his basic hits, and he has access to bleed debuffs on his special attacks as well as to incinerate on his level 2, which if they do proc can actually be fairly potent, but unfortunately that's all there is, and you can not like spam extensively your special attacks with this champion. And basically the fact that he has nothing going on for his basic attacks means that for the vast majority of the fight you will be relying on your basic damage output that he delivers via his crit hits or whatever else abilities he might have depending how you are using him. So yeah, it's a very simple character, basic character with a short bleed duration on his special attacks, 65% chance to proc them, and an incinerate on his level 2. Now as an opponent, he can be quite annoying, especially for novice and less experienced players, because he has a very annoying shrug off mechanic that actually gave name to many annoying nodes in Act 6, because Tenacity is the ability name that he utilizes to shrug off all of the debuffs. He has a 70% chance to shrug off any debuff that gets applied on him, including the Suicide Mastery debuffs initially at the beginning of the fight. So there is a chance that he will get rid of your Suicide Mastery debuffs, but overall he's obviously not the most suicide feeling champion because he does kind of want to use special attacks, and there's nothing else really to help sustain him as a champion. But the fact that he shrugs off all of the debuffs can be quite annoying once you're facing him if you are parrying him, then you're going to try and strike him, and then in the middle of all of that thing happening, there is a chance he's going to shrug off the debuff, and then you're going to end up hitting his block or getting hit in the face yourself. So it definitely requires a small amount of finesse whenever you're facing Agent Venom, and kind of like more popular strategies are to either pretend that he's stun immune and do not try to apply parry stun at all, or if you do try to parry him, then wait a split second to see if he will shrug off the debuff or not, and then once you have confidently confirmed that the shrug off ability has not triggered, then try and go in for your combo. Another thing to mention with his character model is that his level 1 is actually fairly difficult to fully dex, therefore he has been popular choice in past for kinetic reactor and kinetic transference nodes, because whenever he drops his level 1, then you end up blocking at least a portion of it. That will kind of mean that he will automatically get more power, and you will have to kind of like do that dance more so and more frequently, because he's going to get to use his special attacks more and more. And a small side piece of utility is that Agent Venom has about 50% chance to reduce evade ability accuracy on all of his attacks. Therefore, champions like Quake or any other evade heavy reliance champions are hindered, and for instance Agent Venom is one of the basic and most commonly used examples as a champion that you do not wish to try and Quake. So that I felt to be important enough to note as well, because Quake is one of the main champions in the game. Okay, anyways, notable utility. So his utility, as mentioned before, basically lies in the two very kind of like wake abilities that have since been outclassed. So he has a 70% chance to shrug off any debuff that gets applied to him, which kind of can make him annoying to fight, but can also be utilized offensively. For instance, if you bring him in against a node that places bleeds or any other debuffs, you have a 70% chance to shrug that off. The problem with that is that 70% chance is not a guarantee, and it's not high enough chance to utilize it reliably. Therefore, bringing in flat out immune champions often is the best kind of like course for you, and you do not have to pray to the gods of RNG for this ability to trigger, but that is something that he can be utilized for in times of dire need, I suppose. Also, all of his attacks have basically 50% chance to reduce evade ability accuracy, as well as special one has additional 35% chance to reduce evade ability accuracy. Now that means that even on special one he only has 85% chance to prevent evades, and unfortunately again that does not amount to anything guaranteed, and we all know how Kabam's 3% Black Widow evade chance works, or when you are using Black Widow, even if you have 85% chance to prevent something, it definitely doesn't seem to work when you need to prevent something, not to mention that there are also ability accuracy increase nodes available in the contest. Therefore that means that currently today we have vastly superior champion options available for these same mechanics. For instance, when you want to prevent evade, then there are champions like Emma Frost who simply state that opponent champions cannot evade, or Nick Fury for instance, or you have champions that have access to true accuracy or true strike buffs that also completely shut down these evades, not to mention slow debuffs. Therefore, by now in the game, that 50% chance to lower opponent's evade basically just doesn't measure up, because you cannot rely on the ability, because at the back of the mind, even though you reduce the evade chance of opponent, there's still chance that they will evade, and they always evade. And that means that even his most notable utilities are basically just outdated at this point and cannot perform up to the standard, because they cannot offer any guarantees. It's all the matter of RNG, which is one of the more annoying and dangerous kind of like places to be in this contest, when you are completely exposed to a random number generator RNG, and then if it doesn't fall in your favor, then it just is supremely frustrating. Now, all of that being said, notable uses, as I mentioned before, he can be annoying for lower tier Alliance War defense. Now, everybody who has played semi-seriously Alliance War and has, let's say, graduated themselves to Act 6 level, by now will be comfortable dealing with Agent Venoms. They know these small tricks, they know how to play around his parry stun, shrug off abilities, or what to do when he's on kinetic reactor or transference node, so on and so forth. However, when you are dealing with newer players who are just progressing through the game, he does seem to be quite an annoying opponent, because many people do tend to rush these fights and try to punish straight after parries, for instance, or just get panicked and tilted whenever they see that, for instance, Agent Venom continuously keeps throwing level 1s in their block and continuously gets power back, and that is kind of like a very demoralizing effect, especially if you're not as experienced. So he still, in my opinion, holds some value in low tier Alliance War defense. However, he's not the champion I would personally recommend progressing players in Westing, so there's a conundrum that he's not really a champion that's worth ranking up, especially not just for Alliance War defense, and he certainly doesn't offer too much benefit for Alliance War offense either. Now, he does also, as mentioned before, has some uses in specific Marvel Contest of Champions events or side events for monthly quests based on their storyline, because he does have the Symbiote tag, Hero tag, and Guardians of the Galaxy tag, and there are multiple events such as Hero use or Guardians of the Galaxy use or whatever these events are, and he qualifies as these champion groups. So as minor use in contest it is, it's still a chance, I guess, to use a champion outside of Arena, which is primarily going to be what vast majority of the people in Marvel Contest of Champions use this guy for. He's not absolutely awful, he has somewhat decent damage output, but realistically only game time this guy sees is during arena runs. And last, and a new kind of like added point that I will start making for the champions is kind of like the most notable synergies, and that is going to be a continuing theme for the next champions I'm going to be discussing as well, because quite often synergies can make or break the champion. And in this case he has his generic synergies, which are basically quite rubbish, and then he has some specialized unique synergies with Symbiote and Supreme and Goldpool, because of the fact that he's Symbiote, and they increase his bleed damage, but again that increase isn't significant enough to elevate his damage past mediocre, and not to mention that he's not really the champion that you do want to be focusing on. In case you are just a new player who basically has Agent Venom as one of your most potent champions, then if you have Symbiote Supreme and or Goldpool, which is also quite unrealistic, that is a way to increase his damage output, but unfortunately these synergies are nowhere near good enough to actually kind of justify investing heavily in Agent Venom or making him break through to the next level of the game. So that is unfortunately the sad truth about Agent Venom. He's just not measuring up to today's game standards, even though once he came out, he did seem to be quite promising champion. So the verdict, the final verdict on Agent Venom is quite sad in this case. So it's going to be outdated basic arena fodder champion with minor uses in low tier Alliance War defense. Not the worst thing you can pull, but really it's kind of like pulling a poop with a small sprinkle on top, because he does have these minor uses, so it's not exactly like pulling a Groot, which you want to avoid even in arena. However, it's not really gonna develop your account or boost your account progression either. So Agent Venom, unfortunately, currently in Marvel Contest of Champions is not very relevant and or dominant champion. Now let's hop back to our previous scene, because this will also bring us back to the finish of the video, because in this case I do not really think that it's much needed to showcase the gameplay of Agent Venom, because it's very basic. His special attacks have like alright animations, they inflict bleed and or incinerate, and that's about it. Right, so I don't think there's anything specific that I need to showcase, and in these videos in future I will only showcase gameplay if there are some very specific game methods or rotations or very important abilities that I feel the need to be showcased. But for the vast majority, due to the video time, I'm going to try and cut it down to like 10, 12, 13 minute format, and that will mean that the gameplay is going to be only showcased when it's going to be absolutely necessary to kind of like put a point across what the champion is and what he does. But in this case, there's just simply not enough of a champion to justify spending 10-15 times showcasing 10-15 minutes showcasing his gameplay. Right, now that will pretty much bring us now definitely to the end of the video. I hope that you guys have enjoyed today's video. If you have enjoyed today's video, then here's a Baby Yoda. Who doesn't like Baby Yoda? Now, if you are one of the weird people in this universe that do not support and like, share, or subscribe a video that features Baby Yoda in it, then, well, I have lost my faith in you, and here's something else for you. because I don't feel that anything I say will change your mind. But either way, this is me done, and I will catch you guys soon. See ya.